The founder and CEO of SpaceX, Elon Musk, have been trying to make life multi-planetary. This is because he is partly motivated by existential threats such as an asteroid collision big enough to wipe out humanity. Musk has often spoken about his dream of building cities on Mars. He believes that settlements would need large numbers of people in order to become self-sustaining. Realizing this dream requires a vehicle that's up to the task. Starship is a rocket and spacecraft combination that could ferry more than 100 people at a time to the Red Planet. But how will this Starship make human multi-planetary, and what would be the journey of the spacecraft as it moves through space? Well, stay tuned with us to explore how this spacecraft is designed to carry humans and make settlements possible on the Moon, Mars and beyond. So this journey begins with a really big rocket, something that's at least 394 feet tall when fully assembled. Let's have a look at how this spacecraft is designed. The spacecraft, called Starship, will sit on the top of a rocket called Super Heavy. The combined system makes it 394 feet tall and is referred to as Starship. At the rear of the about 60 feet long craft are 6 highly efficient Raptor engines, 3 for atmospheric flight and 3 for propulsion in space. Towards the middle of the vehicle are the propellant tanks, which will feed liquid methane and liquid oxygen to the Raptors. Well, the choice of fuel is unusual for rocket engines. Although methane can generate plenty of thrust, the SpaceX founder says that methane could be synthesized from Martian subsurface water and from atmospheric carbon dioxide using a chemical process known as the Sabatier reaction. This will probably make the journey to Mars more feasible and cost-effective. Now let's move towards the front of the spacecraft that will be able to pull large cargo or people to destinations in deep space. The second part of the spacecraft, the Super Heavy rocket, which is 230 feet, and it will be filled with 3,400 tons of chilled methalox. It will be powered by around 28 Raptor engines providing 72 meganewtons of maximum thrust and capable of lifting at least 100 tons of payload to low Earth orbit. After launching from the launch pad, when the Starship will be in the Earth's orbit, then the Super Heavy rocket will get deployed from the Starship and will fall back to the Earth. But Musk's recent tweet has proclaimed that they are planning to catch this falling Super Heavy so that it can land on a precise place on the Earth. But how exactly this catch mechanism will work, however, remains to be seen. Once the upper stage of the Starship is inserted into a parking orbit, it can be refilled with propellant with the help of tanker ship. But to refuel the Starship, another spacecraft that would be orbiting the Earth will come close to the Starship and transfer its propellant. After refueling the Starship, the tanker ship will return back to Earth. So, the tanker ship or spacecraft would serve as propellant depot. After refilling the propellant in the orbit, the Starship will get 150 tons of payload that would be enough to take Starship all the way to Mars. After the refilling of the Starship, the spacecraft will move from Earth's orbit and around the Sun, and then it will enter Mars' atmosphere at 7.5 kilometers per second and will decelerate aerodynamically. But how would people sit in the Starship? It would take around 9 months to travel to Mars and would take exactly the same time for returning back to Earth. To fulfill his dream of colonizing 1 million people on Mars, Musk is looking to install around 40 cabins in the payload area near the front of the upper stage of Starship. There will be capacity of 5 to 6 people per cabin, but the scientists are expecting that 2 or 3 people per cabin would be enough. In this way, about 100 people per flight will be able to travel to Mars. There will also be some common areas, storage space, a galley and a shelter in the payload, where people could gather to shield from harmful solar storms' charged particles. In 2020, SpaceX was awarded $135 million by NASA to advance the design of Starship so it could be used as a crewed lunar lander for their Artemis program. So the part of Starship that is tailored for landing on Moon would not possess the heat shield or flaps that are necessary for a return journey to Earth. Instead, the Starship human landing system would remain in space after its initial launch from Earth, to be used for multiple trips between lunar orbit and the moon's surface. The uncrewed, or cargo, version of Starship features a payload bay that opens up like the mouth of a crocodile. This would allow it to be used for launching satellites. This huge payload capacity opens up possibilities for new types of robotic science mission, including telescopes larger than the James Webb Observatory. In fact, this system could even be used for high-speed journeys between different destinations on Earth. The rocket would deliver the crew capsule to orbit around Earth, then the booster would steer itself toward a soft landing back at the launch pad. Once it will be on its way, the spaceship would deploy solar panels to harvest energy from the sun and conserve valuable propellant for what promises to be an exciting landing on the red planet. But there are many questions that are yet to be answered. Like when and how the spaceship will move from the Earth's orbit and move towards its destination. Musk says that crew-carrying capsules will remain in Earth orbit until a favorable planetary alignment brings the two planets close together, something that happens after every 26 months. The landing of the Starship back on the Earth is not like other spacecraft. When it is ready to land, the Starship upper stage will re-enter the atmosphere at a 60-degree angle, and then its belly flops to the ground in the horizontal position. Therefore, the vehicle uses 4 steel landing flaps, positioned near the front and rear of the vehicle, to control its landing. It's really different. Something like they are controlling the fall of Starship. Elon Musk envisions that they are looking to send 1,000 or more spaceships in the Earth's orbit that would be waiting to move towards Mars. And in this way Mars can be colonized with humans in massive amounts. The key to his plan is reusing the various spaceships as much as possible. Musk anticipates being able to use each rocket booster 1,000 times, each tanker 100 times, and each spaceship 12 times. At the beginning, by his calculations, putting 1 million people on Mars could take anywhere from 40 to 100 years after the first ship launches. We all are waiting to travel far beyond our planet, and there are many variable dates announced by the SpaceX owner. In the last few years, SpaceX has tested about 20 prototypes in Texas before they are going to engineer the actual Starship that will cargo people to Mars. The company started this mission by building a 39-meter-tall test article known as Starhopper. The first prototype Starship serial number, SN8, which flew back in December 2020 to an altitude of 12.5 kilometers, flopped back to Earth. It gave SpaceX valuable engineering data about the final part of the vehicle's return from space. Recently SN9 and SN10 has also been launched that ended up blowing itself apart on the landing pad. The estimated cost of a single launch would be just $2 million, which is relatively cheaper than the current cost of launching a similar number of people and cargo into space. Nevertheless, Elon Musk has promised a lunar excursion in 2023 to the Japanese online retail billionaire Yusaku Maezawa. Mr. Maezawa will fly around the moon in a Starship with 8 other individuals. There are many other future programs of SpaceX that seems too realistic and ambitious. But there is a lot more to know before Musk launches the Starship with humans on Moon and Mars.